Muchas gracias a todos por estas buenas reflexiones. Seguimos, vamos ahora a analizar la tecnología con la colaboración público-privada. Voy a pedir que suban al escenario Natalia Olson, es Advisor to Rep Scans and Plug and Play. Un fuerte aplauso para ella, por favor. Y también Chris Turner, VP, en este caso de Governance Affairs and Public Policies of Google. Basola Vallés, directora general de ISDI, por favor, también que nos acompañe. Tenemos 14 minutos. Adelante vuestro debate.
Thank you.
Gracias.
I think we're going to make it in 10 minutes. This is going to be a spotlight conversation where we're going to speak about technology and public-private collaboration, a partnership to accelerate innovation. It's going to be brief, but I'm sure it will be rich. So let's dive straight into it. Artificial intelligence is transforming everything, and we've spoken about it all day long, and we're very aware of it. It's transforming the way we work, how we govern, how we innovate, and even how we build trust as societies. In this new reality, collaboration between the public and private sector is not only a strategy, we all think that is a necessity.
Very much so.
I think you agree with me, which is a great start. Today, I'm honored to share this conversation with two people who devote their time to represent the intersection of technology, policy, and innovation. Chris Turner, Vice President of Public Affairs and Government Relations at Google, one of the most influential voices in shaping the dialogue between governments and technology on issues like AI, regulation, and digital ethics. And to add to that, I know you believe in the power of local government to improve the quality of life of its residents. Lovely to hear that. And with us as well, Natalia Olson Urtecho, advisor to RepScan, Futurity, and Plug and Play, with an outstanding international career in innovation, entrepreneurship, and public policy, and who also served as an advisor to Barack Obama. She places hope over fear, collaboration over division, and leadership over passivity. Impressive to hear that as well. Let's start with Natalia. You've worked both with governments and with startups and investors. That gives you a very unique perspective, so let me make the most of that. Would love to ask you, how should the relationship between the public sector, big tech, and the innovation ecosystem should evolve to keep up the speed?
Well, speed is key, right? So we've been seeing tremendous changes, especially in the last couple decades, which is, the fourth industrial revolution. We've always seen those changes, and that actually is stimulated by good government. So when a government decides to pass good legislation, decides to open the government, decides to be able to incentivize, incentivize, because our economies are run by business in many ways, and the government has to serve as a catalyst, come up with the ideas to facilitate that innovation. A lot of people, talk about Silicon Valley. Well, Silicon Valley wasn't born out of the blue. It used to be an underutilized zone. The U.S. government facilitated funding, and also, most importantly, it gave funding to the people who know how to invest, to investors. And so they were able to trust them to go and find the craziest things in the world. And why is this important? Because this was a small, like we call small ministry, but it's our agency for small businesses. The SBA created the SBIR, SCTR, and SBIC. And this particular models, which I used to come to Brussels and talk about, created Horizon funding and the next generation funding. So they're based on our models. And we were talking about this, and what we love to do is share between governments, right? Open And all of a sudden, Europe started having more funding, right? Never had that type of funding for entrepreneurs in 2012 when you put 80 billion into the hands of entrepreneurs. And I think that is what the government and policymakers are supposed to stimulate. Now the ecosystem has to be grown in many different ways, but Europe has a great opportunity to be able to be Europe first and scale up. A lot of startups. Now Europe has to scale up a little bit more.
You make it sound easy, which is not, but you're absolutely right.
It's taken me more than 20 years.
Chris, Google stands right at the center of global debates on regulation, privacy, and the ethical use of AI. Allow me to ask you, how can a large technology company build genuine trust with governments and society, especially taking into account that sometimes those tech companies are even larger than some governments?
It really, the way to frame it is exactly how you said. It's almost a trust triangle that exists between technology companies, governments, and society or users, right? And trust has to be built in both directions, from tech companies to governments and society. Part of it begins with being at the table early, engaging early. The days of dropping a magic technology and seeing what happens should be long gone. They certainly are gone in Europe. So coming early, talking about your concept early with both trusted users and governments starts to build the trust. Even if there is not initial agreement, the dialogue is what starts to create the trust. Then it's the constant updates through transparency and being very direct about the objectives that you're trying to achieve. And then it's respect. And respect is one of the biggest ones, not just for the government and its intentions, but respect for the user, right? Putting the user at the heart of the decisions that you make and respecting the user, and governments respecting their citizens. It's a triangle again. And their citizens' desires and wishes. That really is how you do it, right? It's acknowledging the respect of your users and your citizens. That's the last piece of connecting the triangle.
So it's a magic triangle built upon trust and respect.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's hope for that to happen.
Yeah.
Chris, let's continue with you and jump into innovation, competitiveness, and alliances. Would love to. You've partnered with governments and institutions worldwide in areas like education, sustainability, and even digital transformation. Can you share a few examples of initiatives and countries you have partnered with? And most importantly, what makes a public-private alliance successful and impactful?
Yeah, great question. First, it starts with not sprinkling AI on everything and thinking you've solved anything, right? That absolutely does not work, and it breaks down trust. The key is starting with a shared common goal, a solution, an existing problem that you are trying to solve, and then working backwards with the community to identify where technology tools like AI or others can actually help drive a solution. So we've been doing that in places around the world. We've partnered with Miyagi Prefecture in Japan to try and help address their aging population and getting them more connected to the rest of Japan using artificial intelligence. So too, we've worked with the small businesses in Miyagi. Miyagi sits maybe 2 hours north of Tokyo. But when tourists come, they go to Tokyo. They don't necessarily know to go to Miyagi. So using artificial intelligence and other technology tools to amplify the visibility and the cultural significance of the small businesses in Miyagi Prefecture is another interesting thing we've done. In Korea, in Gyeongsangbuk-do, we just had the APEC Summit. We partnered with that region to use artificial intelligence to 3D model all of the UNESCO treasures that are in Gyeongsangbuk-do, to encourage people to see more than just the inside of the conference rooms and the conference hall and see the rest of what that region has to offer. Again, it's not most people go to Seoul. They don't necessarily get down to Gyeongsangbuk-do. So this is a way to help drive some of that flow. And we've done partnerships like that in Spain with Zaragoza, in the United States with Chattanooga, in Brazil with multiple municipalities, all anchored on a specific solution, key metrics to drive towards that solution. And the technology, it's not an afterthought, it's brought in as an enabler to the solution and to hitting the metrics we need to hit. And that's the way I'd approach it.
Fantastic, and I love the fact that it's about giving visibility to the whole world, not only the large cities. Natalia, you're deeply involved with accelerators and ventures like Plug and Play, RepScan, and Futurity, all focused on driving technological innovation and digital reputation. Digital reputation, I highlight that. What have you learned about building strong collaborative ecosystems that connect startups, corporations, and institutions? And if you had a lot of money, like Draghi suggested.
Sure, no, when as a startup, you're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to do the right thing. And luckily, a lot of our startups have scaled up, like Google, and they're out there doing the right thing. And I think that coming back and enabling and contributing is really important. I tell people, look, you're here in Barcelona. Today, we were both at the Smart City Expo. And when we're here, we want to contribute. And we want to make sure that we bring investment, that we invite other folks to come and see Barcelona, Catalonia, the region, which is a wonderful region, and be able to connect very closely that information is more available. Because when people are asking me, oh, so what are the tax incentives? Well, what are some of the incentives here to set up shop here? And it's hard to find. It's hard to find that information. But an accelerator like Plug and Play started with one family. Where Google got started, where many, Dropbox, PayPal, a bunch of companies have started, and it's one family, 40 unicorns. And it has enabled growth in an ecosystem to make those companies be able to scale. And so when we and the government created a grant, which is funding for accelerators. So we took the plug-and-play model, and we put it across the different states to get funding, at least $50,000. So we would put a seed, and then they would actually match it with other investors. And that gave comfort to the investors and folks to say, look, the US government put money to it. They did their due diligence. They trust us. So in a way, we guarantee that. And it helps that trust that Chris talks about. So from that perspective, we gotta, always, it doesn't matter where you're at, talk about the good models that are in your country or your city, and also talk about what didn't work. Very important. What doesn't work, it's important, it's all right to fail, but the best important thing to understand is what to do in order to not fail again.
What to do in order not to fail, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's fine to fail, and it's fine
to
get back up and get going again.
Government as an enabler, not only technology, but also government planting the first seed. And it actually reminds me of how here in Barcelona, companies, universities, and government are coming together to build a new kind of innovation hub. So it all ties together.
Great universities here.
Absolutely. Just short reflection, one from each of you. What word would you use if you had to choose one to define what the world needs most for public-private collaboration? One word each, or maybe two.
Trust. One word.
Natalia?
Transparency.
Transparency.
Very
fantastic.
important.
I would add talent.
Talent, absolutely. You need talent to run governments, to run businesses, to run organizations, and that's why universities are key. Because if you don't figure out the future skills, then you don't figure out the future companies and the future regulations.
That's our belief at Easy as well. And within talent, we include culture and skills, both things. So thank you very, very much. It has been a great pleasure having you here. Wish it was longer, but it has been. I think it has been quite snappy and powerful. Thank you very much.
We get to the
both of
point.
Thank you.
Getting to
We
the point.